Hello everyone, Sandre here, and I'm making this video after I asked my subscribers, or really anyone who follows me on social media, to vote on whether or not I should make it. And overwhelmingly, people wanted me to make this video, so well, here we are. And honestly, this video is probably gonna piss off both Democrats and Republicans, because I'm not just going to focus on Trump acting like a crybaby just because he happened to lose, or his fans. I'm going to talk more generally about the history of just shady stuff surrounding elections for the last couple of decades at least. Trust me, what I mentioned here is just the tip of the iceberg. There's many more cases to bring up, but what I'm going to talk about in this video is the stuff that's the most recent and as such also the most relevant to modern day. And trust me, there's a lot of shady shit surrounding any type of election in the US, whether we're talking local, state, or nationwide. And both parties are implicated in doing some really shady stuff. Like, for instance, in 2002 in Alabama and their gubernatorial election, Governor Don Siegelman of the Democrats, who was the incumbent, was initially declared the winner by a close majority. However, after they had done a recount in Baldwin County without the presence of Democratic observers, Bob Riley, the Republican candidate, won. Now, Riley's victory was very controversial. Officials in Baldwin County had conducted a recount and retabulation of that county's votes after midnight and after Democratic Party observers had gone home for the night. About 6,000 votes, initially credited to Siegelman, were either removed from the total or simply reassigned to Riley in the recount. Local Republican officials had claimed that the earlier returns had been the result of a computer glitch. The thing is, the Democrats' request to repeat the recount with Democratic observers was rejected by Alabama courts. And what do you know? These courts had judges that were very much involved with the Republican Party or had been appointed by Republican presidents. Now, when it comes to the claim of a computer glitch, a number of analyses have been done. In one study, political scientist James H. Gunlech concluded that a detailed analysis of the returns, compared with 1998's results and returns from undisputed counties, quote, strongly suggests a systematic manipulation of the voting results, end of quote. Now, this study also suggested a mechanism by which this could have been effected, and proposed the conclusion that Siegelman actually won. Now, one good thing to come out of this election was that because of the controversy, the Alabama legislature amended the election code to provide for automatic, supervised recounts in very close races. I do suggest that you guys take a look at the Gunlach paper because it is very interesting. Now, what about the 2002 New Hampshire Senate election phone jamming scandal, where the New Hampshire Republican State Committee had hired a telemarketing firm whose job was to jam the phone bank used by the Democratic Party in a, quote, get-out-the-vote operation. John E. Sununu, weird name I know, who was the Republican candidate, won a narrow victory over the Democratic candidate Jeannie Shaheen, while one man, called James Tobin, was later charged for lying to the FBI. Tobin had been the regional director of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and on election day, computerized hang-up calls had jammed phone lines set up by the New Hampshire Democratic Party and the Manchester Firefighters Union. Over 800 phone calls were made to get out the vote phone bank over the course of 2 hours. Tobin and NSRCC political director Chris LaCivita had worked together at DCI Group, a Washington GOP lobbying and public relations firm, along with Brian McCabe, a GOP activist who formerly worked in several roles in New Hampshire, including as a campaign manager for former U.S. Representative Bill Zeliff. At the time, the NSRCC was chaired by then Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist. To cut a long story short, in May 2006, prosecutors asked for a 2-year prison sentence. They cited 3 factors: Tobin's abuse of a public and private trust, the making of multiple calls to multiple victims over a prolonged period of time, and the ultimate purpose of interfering with an election. The first two are specifically addressed by the telephone harassment statute. The later is not, but the prosecutors said, so egregious an end that it warranted more severe punishment. Tobin was sentenced on May 17, 2006 to 10 months in prison, 2 years probation, and $10,000 in fines. The trial left the New Hampshire Republican Party nearly bankrupt. A third case which makes the Republican Party look bad is in the 2004 Washington gubernatorial election. The election was very close, and in the beginning, the Republican candidate Dino Rossi was declared the winner. However, the Democratic candidate Christine Gregoire was declared the winner after a manual recount. Rossi made an unsuccessful legal challenge to the results and did not officially concede the election for 7 months. Gee, not conceding an election for several months. Seems rather familiar, doesn't it? Here's a fourth case which doesn't make Republicans look very good. In 2017, United States Senate special election in Alabama, which was held to fill the Attorney General Jeff Sessions' vacated Senate seat in Alabama, the Republican Party candidate Roy Moore refused to concede the election after being defeated by the Democratic Party candidate Doug Jones, despite pressure from his ally, President Donald Trump's administration, to do so, claiming that he had been the victim of a voter fraud conspiracy. Seems mighty familiar, doesn't it?
Fake news.
Moore was additionally plagued by sexual misconduct allegations, including allegations of child molestation. But hey, that's totally not why you lose an election. You're accused of being a child molester. No, it has to be a fucking conspiracy, doesn't it? So far, I've only talked about Republicans doing shady shit around elections. But hold on. Now it's time for me to talk shit about the Democrats, because oh boy, the Democrats are just as guilty as the Republicans of doing shady shit and rigging elections. Because oh boy, the Democrats are just as guilty as the Republicans of spitting democracy in the eye and telling the will of the people to go fuck itself. In the 2020 Iowa Democratic caucuses, the Iowa Democratic Party was initially unable to collect and announce results due to the failure of a mobile application designed to collect the votes. And we're going to get back to this mobile application very soon. Although the results were eventually released with Pete Buttigieg leading, they have been subject to scrutiny, and the Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez has advocated a recanvassing of the votes. You see, on election night, it was found that there were several inconsistencies that strongly suggest foul play. Here's the full statement by the Iowa Democratic Party Communications Director Mandy McClure. We found inconsistencies in the reporting of 3 sets of results. In addition to the text systems being used to tabulate results, we are also using photos of results and a paper trail to validate that all results match and ensure that we have confidence and accuracy in the numbers we report. This is simply a reporting issue. The app did not go down, and this is not a hack or an intrusion. The underlying data and paper trail is sound and will simply take time to further report the results. Yeah, about that. You see, that app that was used, it's heavily linked to the Democratic establishment. Gee, I wonder if there's a conflict of interest going on here. You see, behind the app was Shadow Inc., a little-known software company and Electi0n, a Democratic political operation that launched in 2017 to much fanfare on the promise it would help the party catch up to the Republicans in digital prowess. Shadow started out as Groundbase, a tech developer co-founded by Nimiera and Krista Davis, who worked for the tech team on Clinton's campaign for the 2016 Democratic nomination. In January of 2019, it was acquired by Electi0n, a Democratic nonprofit founded in 2017 to educate, inspire, register, and mobilize voters, according to its website. Electi0n's founder and CEO is Tara McGowan, a former journalist and digital producer with President Obama's 2012 presidential campaign. Federal Election Commission records also show payments to Shadow from the Texas Democratic Party, Democratic Party of Wisconsin, and Joe Biden's presidential campaign. Kirsten Gillibrand's short-lived presidential campaign also paid the company for unspecified software and fundraising consulting. Among Shadow's larger clients is Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign, which paid $42,500 to the firm in July of 2019 for software rights and subscriptions, according to public disclosures. A Buttigieg representative said that fee was for the text messaging tool. My ass it was. Now, do you really think it's a coincidence that there were problems with the software that was funded by Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg's campaigns in some way or another, when it looked like Bernie Sanders was going to sweep the state? And, well, he did. Now, to add salt to the wounds, the Iowa Democrats wouldn't even correct the errors on caucus tally sheets, despite knowing the problems with the software. However, before we go on, I just want to mention one thing. You see, to me it's funny how Republicans complain about Democrats and Democrats supposedly engaging in voter fraud and whatnot. And look, you guys are right. Democrats do engage in a lot of shady practices. There are definitely cases where you can say that there's been election fraud going on with Democrats. Democrats are, in my opinion, just as guilty in many ways as Republicans in engaging in rigging elections or, engaging in voter fraud. There are definitely cases to bring up. However, there is one type of rigging an election which is really undemocratic and also really effective, and it's something that Republicans do a lot more than Democrats, and I don't see any goddamn Republicans with a backbone actually mentioning this. And I'm gonna be honest, it does piss me off. I'm talking about gerrymandering. Republicans are masters when it comes to gerrymandering. For those of you who don't know, gerrymandering is the practice of setting boundaries of electoral districts to favor specific political interests within legislative bodies. This results in districts with convoluted, winding boundaries rather than compact areas, which you would expect in an open and transparent democratic system. Gerrymandering is really effective, and it's not just effective in pure mathematics. It's also very effective because, well, it's very hard to legally pursue. Partisan gerrymandering has been a frequent question to put to the United States court system, but the courts have been historically reluctant to provide a strong ruling for fear of showing political bias towards either of the two major parties. This means that the parties, and especially the Republicans, get away with this over and over and over and over again. If it wasn't for the perverse spread of gerrymandering in very Republican states, some of these states, such as Texas, would actually be more likely to vote Democrat as a whole. Yes, you heard me right, Texas. One of the major reasons why Texas always goes to Republicans in any general election is gerrymandering. It's not the only reason, but it's one of the big ones. And it's not like gerrymandering is just a distant part of the, Republican history or anything. No. As recent as 2019, there have been leaks showing that top dogs in the political party of the Republicans are not just fine with gerrymandering, but they plan to go on with it as long as they can. I cannot stress this enough. The Republican Party is the party of gerrymandering, and hence it is a fundamentally undemocratic party. Again, I find it funny that the very same people who call out, correctly mind you, shenanigans by the Democratic Party refuse to take an honest look at their own party and how it not only engages in illegal tactics, just like the Democrats, to stay in power undemocratically or gain power undemocratically, but go so far as to rig things even before the election. It really is perverse when you think about it. And I cannot for the life of me understand that not more people talk about the problems of gerrymandering. But anyway, let's go back a little bit to 2016 and how the Democrats acted very much like the Republicans are doing now. Yes, I'm going to talk some more shit about the Democrats now. Like I said, I would piss off both parties in this video. The Democrats just couldn't stand the fact that they lost to a goddamn game show host. So what did they do? They concocted the conspiracy hypothesis that Russia, for some reason, conspired to get President Trump elected.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
The beginning of the end.
And breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
The call for impeachment.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell. One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end.
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 In fact, if this were a football game, we're in the third quarter. May even be the beginning of the end.
We begin tonight with the bombshell.
Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble.
Trump is in trouble.
The president will resign.
Another hour, another bombshell.
No how.
Breaking news.
Absolute bombshell. I think Donald Trump is in trouble.
Donald Trump is not. He's done. And it's over. It's over.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
This is the beginning
Of the end.
Another bombshell.
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 This is a bombshell.
It is a bombshell.
I am beginning to resent the word bombshell.
Donald Trump is one of the most corrupt people ever to occupy the White House. I'm certain that he's guilty of all kinds of crimes. War crimes as president, financial crimes as a business person. One of the reasons why those of us who are so angry about this obsession on Russia and collusion, aside from the fact that it was so dangerous to ratchet up tensions between two nuclear armed powers this way instead of trying to forge a peace between these two countries, is precisely because it took the oxygen away from all of the things that the Trump administration is doing that is so damaging in lieu of this idiotic, moronic, Tom Clancy type espionage thriller where we were talking about Putin blackmailing Donald Trump with PP tapes and Donald Trump being a Russian agent since 1987, which was a cover story that was on New York Magazine that Chris Hayes put on MSNBC. Just all kinds of moronic conspiracies that we love to mock other countries' medias for circulating and disseminating, drowned out our airways and our discourse for 3 years, preventing us from focusing on the real substantive damage that the Trump administration is doing and that Donald Trump's corruption entails. But the reality is the media chose to focus on this. Everybody knows this. The game is over and it's time to be honest about it. And the more we try to cling to this and invent new, you know what it reminds me of? In 2003 when the neocons finally had to face the truth that there were no WMDs, that they had fabricated that the media had misled millions of people around the world for years, and they started saying, maybe Saddam hid them in Syria. Maybe they're buried in places we just haven't looked yet. It's time to face the truth. The media got this story wrong. They obsessed on this for 3 years, and all this time there was no evidence for it. It was just a conspiracy theory. Rachel Maddow, the most influential liberal TV host in the country, every single night misled millions of liberals into believing something that was totally false, and there will be no media consequences for it.
Listen, you retards. There's no evidence that Russia in any way swung the election in Trump's favor. Do you understand? The Mueller report clears Trump on this issue. There has been extensive, exhaustive investigations into whether or not there's a link between Kremlin and Trump Tower regarding Trump's win in 2016. On that point, there is no evidence, period. If you want to believe that Putin is in bed with Trump, well, you have the right to believe that. Just know that it's pure conjecture and it lacks any actual evidence. And honestly, I just look at any Democrat who pushed Russiagate for years, who now call Trump fans retarded. You people are just hypocrites. Just goddamn hypocrites. The point is, all evidence shows that Trump won the 2016 election fair and square. Russiagate is bullshit. Do you understand? It's bullshit. Oh, but don't you get cocky, any fucking Republican watching this right now, because you guys are no better. All evidence suggests that Biden won the 2020 presidential election fair and square. Now, here's the thing. We gotta ask ourselves the question. Was there election fraud in this election? Yes, there was. I can definitively say with confidence that there was some level of election fraud going on some level in the United States during the 2020 election. Just like I can say that about the 2016 election, or the 2012 election, or any other election. Because here's the thing, bub. There's election fraud happening in every election. Yes, every election has some level of shady shenanigans going on, and both parties engage in it. And sometimes there's actual fraud going on. So to answer the question as to whether or not there was any kind of election fraud going on election day, yes, of course there was. But you see, the question isn't really whether or not there was election fraud, because the US is a really big country with a really big population, with many different states and many different counties. It would be idiotic to assume that none of those counties in any way engaged in any kind of shady shenanigans to rig the election in favor of one of the major parties. Honestly, if you believe that, you're a goddamn dolt. The question is rather, was there widespread voter fraud? And no, there wasn't. The voter fraud that definitely took place was not commonplace enough, by far, to sway the election in favor of Biden. I mean, guys, think about it. Biden won the election with the popular vote of about 7 million votes as it looks right now. 7 million votes. Do you really think that you could get away with manufacturing a 7 million vote in the popular vote? Come on, guys. Get a goddamn grip. Even if you throw in fraudulent votes, even if you throw in illegal votes, it's not enough by far to explain Biden's victory. The reason I can say why Biden won the election is simply because, well, if you look at all the states that he took from Trump, sure, Trump definitely overperformed and it was closer than anyone expected, but when you add all these percentages up, it's just too many votes in too many states to be orchestrated by any kind of mastermind. You just would not be able to get away with manufacturing that many votes or having illegals cast that many votes. So yes, Biden definitely won over Trump. Not just in the popular vote, but in the Electoral College as well. But hey, I might hear you say, Sandre, isn't there like overwhelming evidence that there was election fraud? After all, that's what Rudy Giuliani said. Oh, I'm sorry, you mean the crackpot that shows up on TV screaming like a goddamn madman with hair dye running down his cheek? Talking a big game outside the court, but inside the court, he can't provide any goddamn evidence. People, you have Republican courts, one by one, overwhelmingly not even entertaining these lawsuits. They throw them out of court. That's how weak they are. Guys, when even Republican judges laugh at you, don't you think that's a good sign that you have some really goddamn weak sauce? I mean, come on, people. Grow the fuck up. Most of you are the same people who made fun of the Democrats for concocting Russiagate. And yet, you guys are now a bunch of goddamn hypocrites. Because you've concocted your own conspiracy hypothesis to deal with the fact that your candidate just didn't win. Well, I'm sorry. Sometimes your candidate just doesn't win. And why would he? I'm sorry, but it's pretty much objective at this point that he bungled the response to the COVID pandemic. When you have that many hundreds of thousands of people dying, it's going to be hard for any incumbent to stay in power. It's just that simple. Also, you do realize that Trump could actually have pulled off the election just barely, but he could have done it if he had just promoted people to, vote by mail. Oh, but I'm sorry, I forgot that it's totally rigged, guys. But hey, don't take it from me. Take it from someone who's actually supported Trump.
So it appears that Donald Trump has actually conceded and is allowing the transition to go along smoothly. Now, with that being said, guys, I want to go ahead and make some things clear. I think this should have happened much earlier, especially given that we are in a global pandemic, especially given that we are still, technically speaking, a country at war. And so will you basically have the dismissal? You know, well, you're not experienced. People change votes because of that, and you saw that from this previous from not just the previous election with white people. White people felt like they were being talked down to. In fact, a lot of white people feel that way now. The only difference now is that everybody has a dog in the fight now. Give up on this whole complaining about the freaking election with the conspiracy theories and take this as an opportunity. Because now people have years to see how Joe Biden performs. And you saw that as a result of what Obama did for 8 years, we got Donald Trump. So what do you think we're going to get after 8 years of Joe Biden? Don't take it as a loss, take it as an opportunity. Every promise that he made, hold him to it. The virus response, hold him to it. The economy, hold him to it. Foreign policy, hold him to it. Stop complaining.
Because it's not over yet.
I have friends who believe that Joe Biden is now president. It's not true.
There's a lot of questionable things. I shouldn't be calling this election. There's dozens of lawsuits all over the United States right now. They should resolve those up.
That's going to take our country off the edge of the cliff.
They ain't taking it from us!
This is absurd. We're sitting here, I mean, how many days ago was the election?
Tuesday it should have been called.
Yeah, it should have been called Tuesday.
Emotions here are raw, as supporters have watched Donald Trump's lead slowly dwindle, and along with it, his chances of re-election.
Fight each and every one of these battles to the death.
To the death.
So that we get full transparency in the process. And everyone on the Democrat side should welcome this unless they're actually cheating.
We break and divide every demonic confederacy against the election, against America, against that who you have declared to be in the White House. We break it up in the name of Jesus. We lose confusion into every demonic confederacy directed right now at this election, directed specifically at the 6 states. We come against people that are working in high levels right now with demonic confederacies and secrecies and demonic plans and networks. We break it up and we command that it be exposed right now in the name of Jesus. Strike and strike. The angels have even been dispatched from Africa right now. Africa right now. Africa right now. From Africa right now. They're coming here. They're coming here. In the name of Jesus. From South America. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. They're coming here. From Africa. From South America. Angelic forces. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Angelic reinforcement. Pika hata anda ata. Ora bata rata anda eke manda rasa. For I hear the sound of victory. I hear.
Put you in the hospital.
A man who appears to be a Trump supporter allegedly threatened physical violence outside of a polling site on Election Day.
Chanting very loudly, count that vote, and then we've got poll workers that are coming off of shift, and the poll workers have to be escorted out by armed sheriff's deputies down those stairs and into vans and taken away from here.
The media said what? The media said Joe Biden's president. It's happening right now. There they are. The Biden votes coming in. Just like everyone else. We're going to just watch it, I guess.
Sorry,
then we need to be in California doing the same thing.
Do you think Trump still has a shot?
Oh hell yeah.
Oh, he's
Don't
got
tell me
it.
the odds.
He can only win re-election if...
They'll look deeper into what happened.
I have hope. I have so much hope. Most everyone we spoke with tonight said they believe that fraudulent votes will likely force Donald Trump out of office.
Anyway, I'd like to thank Devil's Advocate for making a contribution to this video. Always a pleasure to have you on in any of my projects. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!